Okay, I get it. Some of you might think that the Farrakhan thing is played and there's really nothing more to talk about because you still think that this is an issue of Jews and anti-Semitism. Yes, some of it is, sure. But again, how many times have already proved that he says derogatory things about women, derogatory things about Asians, and derogatory things about gays and whatever. So I don't think it's been enough. I feel that it's time to really get into what Farrakhan thinks about the origin of a certain number of races.
You think that the original Mexicans are all white Mexicans. Don't have anything against a white Mexican, but you're not the original. What language did the original Mexicans speak? Why are you speaking Spanish? You're not Spain. You're not Spanish. Where did you get that name you have? Sanchez. Ramirez. Look at you. My name is Sergio Sanchez. I'm not one of those black ones. But Africans were in that part of the world maybe before you got there. Yeah.
What about Louis Farrakhan's views on Arab people? Linda Sarsour penned an article in July 2015 with Huffington Post that says, I am Muslim and I am Black Lives Matter. She said she is Black Lives Matter, and she says, Black lives don't matter, saying it rhetorically, doesn't really mean it, but they do in Islam. Since the founding of Islam, Black Lives Matter. My faith informs my role and commitment to standing up against injustice and to work towards creating a world where black life is valued as equally as any life. In Islam, no one is afforded the right to claim any superiority over another based on race, ethnicity, language, or economic status, and this was crystal clear in the last sermon of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, where he said, all mankind is from Adam and Eve. An Arab has no superiority over a non-Arab, nor a non-Arab has any superiority over an Arab. Also, a white has no superiority over a black, nor does a black have any superiority over a white, except by piety and good action. What does Minister Farrakhan say about the Arab?
Next thing you knew, and the next thing you knew, was a mixed race was coming up in the Muslim world. Light-skinned Arabs and black Arabs. Arab? Yes. The original language of the original people is Arabic. But there's a Semitic Jew and a Semitic Arab. And they have lived in the Holy Land. Now, listen to me, my Palestinian brother and friend. You've lived there no longer than 6,000 years. How long you been there, black man? Oh, well, our Savior taught us that from the time of the deportation of Moon, 66 trillion years ago, when that part that is now called Moon was a part of the earth, and a great explosion took place which shot one part out 12,000 miles, and another part fell 36,000 miles, and the water on that part fell on this part, and that part that was shot out had no water at all, so everything died, but out of evil came good. It was a new planet. So we searched for the best part, that civilization of the original man would start again. We travel all over this planet with its new dimension. 57,255,000 square miles of land, 139,685,000 square miles of water, 24,896 miles of circumference, 7,926 miles in diameter. We know our planet. This is our home. And you can't stay unless you bow down. So wait a minute, to my Palestinian brothers. You've been there longer than the Ashkenazi Jew, who's a convert to Judaism. But they are severe white racists. And though you are their real brother, they hate you. I didn't know we were brothers. Yeah, you went through the grafting process just like they did. See, Arabia, Iraq, Afghanistan, Jordan, Syria, all of that is the Fertile Crescent, the Tigris and Euphrates River. That's where civilization began. You weren't even on the planet then. The root of civilization is in Mecca. That's our home. You can stay there, Palestinian, with permission. Because all that area was black. And because of your nature, you pushed the black out. I know your history. I've been taught by my teacher. I'm not going to let you get away with deceit and deception. That we are brothers. Look at all the stores of the Palestinians in the black community. They don't love you. They don't have respect for you. They sell you pork. They sell you alcohol. They sell you drugs. They misuse your woman. And some of them are depots for gun sales to young gangbangers. How in the hell can that be my brother? Making my work harder.
There's a very simple reason that Sarsour wouldn't call out Farrakhan and Tamika Mallory for his racist statements against Arabs, even though she herself is a former leader of a major Arab American anti-discrimination group. This is from the Gothamist from April 7th, 2015. It deals with the fight for the soul of the Black Lives Matter movement. And in it, both Tamika Mallory and Linda Sarsour are cited as people who are going through this fight to coalesce the movement together. They were both involved in this organization called Justice League New York City, ironically with Russell Simmons, who was later called out by the Me Too movement for a lot of underhanded stuff towards women that worked for him. It says here, founded in early 2014 by Carmen Perez, a former parole officer, the Justice League is considered an initiative of the nonprofit Gathering for Justice. Many members of the Justice League, including Tamika Mallory, former executive director of Sharpton's National Action Network, and Michael Skolnick, political advisor to hip-hop mogul Russell Simmons, also work within the city's nonprofit sector, which has maintained the legacy of reformism championed by middle and upper-class blacks since the NAACP was founded in New York a century ago. You scroll down and you see people kind of getting antsy about the involvement of Linda Sarsour. It says here, we're concerned that the group's liberal politics and their ties to the mayor's office, Mayor de Blasio, and for instance someone like Linda Sarsour with political aspirations will prioritize being conciliatory at a time when liberal gatekeepers must be challenged and held accountable, the activist said. Despite their rhetoric, their actions are already interpreted as watering down progressive and human rights work in the city. Sarsour is a member of the Justice League and the executive director of the Arab American Association of New York. So she replies, it says it's very disingenuous to say, oh, the Justice League just showed up yesterday, Sarsour told Gothamist. They're making it sound like people just woke up one morning, never set foot in the movement, don't know anyone in the movement, and all of a sudden now we're doing work. We've been in the movement, we just don't have a name. Now we have a name. Sarsour pointed to the Justice League's affiliations with the New York City Revolution Club and the Zulu Nation as proof of the group's willingness to work with more radical elements. She's also defended their use of star power. The way you raise the profile of an issue is by making the issue cool and relevant in pop culture. And if people are seeing it on Twitter, if they're seeing Russell Simmons tweeting about police brutality and getting people involved, at the end of the day, young people are going to come out for that. For the rest of the article, Sarsour is defending herself from people who are attempting to attack her for moderating the movement and getting it close to the de Blasio administration. So she says, Sarsour asserts that lawmakers wouldn't give us the time of day if they didn't see the influence we had in our communities. This is civic organizing that I've been doing for the past 14 years of my life. Building civic participation of immigrant communities across the city, getting people to the polls. People watch that. Elected officials know that that's important, and there's some people that won't win elections without communities of color at the polls. After 2 NYPD Legal Affairs Bureau officers were assaulted on the Brooklyn Bridge in December, after a large demonstration, Mayor de Blasio met with members of the Justice League who, the mayor said, agreed to identify anybody who seeks to harm the police or harm anyone and undermine their nonviolent, peaceful, progressive movement. The mayor seemed to be positioning the Justice League as a wedge between him and more radical elements of the movement. The Justice League issued a press release right after the meeting that did not address this assertion. Still, some members of the group began to vehemently deny the mayor's claim on Twitter. Sarsour blamed the corporate media, not de Blasio, for trying to discredit and spread division between protesters. The next day, the group tweeted a statement saying they would not work with the NYPD to identify protesters. Some have questioned why the Justice League didn't specifically denounce the mayor after he alluded to their possible work as informants. If the mayor is the one that's lying, why don't they call the mayor out, said Dennis Flores, an activist with El Grito in the Sunset Park. If they don't, it shows that they're really trying to protect their relationship with the mayor, as opposed to calling him out on lying. Asked to speak to this controversy, Carmen Perez told Gothamist, we did not and do not get distracted from the important work we are doing by sensationalized media reporting. Linda Sarsour added, just because we get a meeting with the mayor, excuse us. Excuse me that I got a meeting with the mayor. I apologize. I've built those connections. I didn't wake up one morning and become some important person. So clearly, what Sarsour has done is basically position herself as a leader of all these minority communities. And if she were to denounce Farrakhan, if she were to clearly kick him and his activists from the Women's March, as well as from other organizations that she was working at, she would jeopardize her standing with those minority communities that even back in that period of time in 2015 were already questioning why she has such a large role in the movement. Okay, so we've heard a little about Sarsur's background with Justice League New York and a little of the friction that was taking place at the time when Black Lives Matter was coalescing in 2015, specifically I think with the Eric Garner incident. So let's hear a little about another community that Farrakhan has insulted, along with, once again, the Arabs, including Palestinian Arabs. Why does Sarsur not denounce Farrakhan? It's clear that if she did, she would lose some of her standing in the movement of the Women's March, Black Lives Matter, all the movements that she's been a figurehead for.
Koreans, I know we like hair and we like nails and we...
Okay, wait a minute now.
Now, wait a minute.
Let's don't talk about hair. No.
I got to talk
Let's
about
don't get rid of
hair.
the hair.
Because I know you love your hair. And the Koreans know it too.
Yeah, they do.
So you go and spend $400 and $500 for a weave.
Mm-hmm.
And the Korean brother will not put any of that money in a Seaway bank.
Nope.
In a black bank. The Arab stores all over the black community. And they're doing everything, selling drug paraphernalia. And I hear some of them have guns that they give to our young people. And they take advantage of our women. Now, don't tell me you my Muslim brother and say assalamu alaikum to me. You making my job harder than hell by the way you are treating my people. So in the disruption of colonization, our unity, we got to look at these stores. What are you doing in our community? And if your business is not serving the people properly, we need to unite, put that business out of our community, but be ready to take it over.
Okay, so we've heard a little about Sarsur's background with Justice League New York and a little of the friction that was taking place at the time when Black Lives Matter was coalescing in 2015. Specifically, I think with the Eric Garner incident. So let's hear a little about another community that Farrakhan has insulted, along with, once again, the Arabs, including Palestinian Arabs. Why does Sarsur not denounce Farrakhan? It's clear that if she did, she would lose some of her standing in the movement of the Women's March, Black Lives Matter, all the movements that she's been a figurehead for.
The man to get into debt when you know debt is slavery, just so you could look good for a minute and suffer when you can't pay the bills? Who are you trying to please? Start small and grow large like everything else does. But if you want everything right away, you don't want to work for nothing. You don't want to sacrifice to build nothing. You will never have nothing, and you won't have a man, because a man can't be a man when he's saddled down up to his neck in debt with a dissatisfied woman who don't give a damn. She wants more and more and more. Let me tell you something, woman. We ought to take you and throttle you. I'm just telling you straight up. You don't want no man like me. You couldn't live with a man like me. Because I would not take that damn foolishness from one of you. For 1 minute I'd drive you through the door. I don't like no woman to dominate no man. And I don't like no woman who even tries. Then you see another side of me. This is the way I was trained as a Muslim. You can see it coming out of me now, right? And I'm telling you, The Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew the black man and woman, and he knew how to train us better than any black man that ever lived. And unless we follow his guidance, we'll never be what we're supposed to be. You'll never be a happy woman dogging your man out. He's not a man yet, but he will be. But if you keep on dogging him, you won't have nothing, and you'll end up being a lesbian at home with yourself, with no man by your side, because your damn mouth is what it is. It's a snake pit. And a man can't live under that, because he got enough hell on his head as it is trying to function in a white man's world. And he needs a wife that has compassion and understanding, and that's the value of the MGT. The MGT is supposed to make you a woman to help you make a man for God.